Hey there, it's Perry with PapercraftingThreads. Thanks for joining me. Today, I have a sweet 3D camera with a secret message and a hidden treat drawer. So let's get started. Today's project starts with the Capturing Smiles stamp set and matching die set. I have a scrap piece of basic white and beginning with inking the camera image. And I'm using the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And I have parts of the camera. And set this aside for a little bit. Next, I'll be using some alcohol blends, and I'm going to begin with the SU 200, 400, 600, and 900. All shades of brown. And beginning with my camera, the alcohol blends work better when you color on something like the glass matte surface. Helps them absorb more into the paper. So I'm starting with the darkest color. Then going to the next lighter color. And I'm kind of doing this like in a U shape here and keeping that edge not straight. So I go over some of the previous color and then extend that. And then coming at it from this side and doing the same thing. And then I'm going back to my second lightest color. I want to be generous with that ink because that's what makes them blend. And then with my lightest color going in here. And then for this piece, going with the, not the darkest one, but the one before that. And again, trying to do that kind of U shape. And for my die cutting, get these lined up. And while I have this out, also going to die cut this. And this. And I'm actually going to do 2 of these, so I'll run that one through twice. And I'll be right back. Then I have 2 pieces of thick basic white. Both measure 2 3/4 inches long. This one is 1 1/8 wide, and this one is 7/8 inch wide. And this one, I'm going to put sandwiched between these 2 film strips. So they are mirror images. And using my liquid glue, you could use an double-sided adhesive sheet before you die cut. I didn't like doing that because then all the little holes here stuck in the die. And they were a bugger to get out. And there's side 1. It helps to use a silicone mat, so if you have any little extra bits of glue, it goes on here. And then I'm going to snip off this corner just to make sure that that's not peeking out. And that one's good. And then making sure my die cut is up. Adding my glue on this one. You don't want a lot of glue on here because you don't want it to ooze real bad, but this is the back side, so if it does ooze, it's not going to matter that much. Plus, it'll be clear when it dries anyway. And there's the film strip. This is my front side. And then to finish stamping, back to my Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And I have a greeting here. And then I'm using this one, Photo Op. Looking good. And the little beach scene. So setting those in place, then placing my clear block on top to pick them up. And then I can ink all 3 at one time. Let me get that ink off my finger. Pardon me if my head gets in the way. And stamp. And now we're done with the ink. Then I have 3 pieces of pecan pie cardstock. The mechanism measures 3 inches by 5 inches. And I'm scoring on the long side at 1 1/2, 3 1/8, and 4 5/8. So I have this narrow 3/8 inch tab here, and I'm going to just miter the corners slightly. And again, this is the mechanism. Next, I have the wrap for the box, and this measures 3 inches by 5 7/8 inches. Scoring at 1 1/4, 2 3/4, 4 inches, and 5 1/2. And again, I have this narrow 3/8 inch tab here, and I'm going to miter those corners. And then for the drawer, I have a piece that measures 4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And the first thing I'm going to do is take off a skosh. And I'm just using, so I'm just lining it up here with the edge of just past my cutting blade, and cutting that off on the long side, turning it 90 degrees, and cutting off that same amount on one of the short sides. It's about a 1/16 of an inch, or maybe a little closer to 1/8 of an inch. We just need it to be a tiny bit smaller or it won't fit inside the wrap. And then we're going to score all 4 sides at 1 1/4 inches. Let me give you a little background on this 3D project. I made a peekaboo slider card back in October of 24, and it used a variation of the slider mechanism that I'm going to show you shortly. And I saw a double slider camera shared by a fellow demo, Michelle Detrisa. My version is tailored to the Matchbox. Then this piece to prep, cutting on each one of these to form tabs and reducing the bulk a little bit. So just cutting a wedge off each side, this tab. And same thing on the opposite end. Then taking my bone folder and folding and burnishing all score lines on this part. Again, this is the drawer. And then to add glue. So I have my liquid glue. Just putting it on these tabs, folding them in, and pulling the end up. Just making sure I have that square. I don't want that to be wider than that end piece. And then same thing here. Folding those in and pressing this in. A little pinch to set and setting it aside. So there's the drawer. Then this is the wrap, which is the 3 by 5 7/8 piece. Folding and burnishing all the score lines. Adding my glue here to my tab. And folding this in half. Give that a burnish. And there's my sleeve. And then my drawer should fit in here, like that. And then, as long as I have that out, I can put my candy in there. These are lint truffles. And then now for this piece. So I have my little tab on this side. Give that a burnish. And then I have a strip of plastic here. Now this is from a window sheet. I cut this to measure 7/8 of an inch, and its length is about 9 inches. You could also use packaging that your supplies come in. Just cut that at 7/8 of an inch. Any type of plastic would work. You just want something that's fairly sturdy. And I'm going to lay this down here in the middle of this 1.5" panel with the top of that plastic up here. And then using my tear and tape, I'm going to cut off a little bit. Want to make sure it does not extend past the edge, any of the edges of the strip. And then I'm going to remove that backing. And then holding that in place, I'm going to wrap this around like a belly band. And just like a belly band, you don't want it super tight, but you also don't want it super loose. Just a nice amount of tension on that. Give that a press. And then check it. And as long as it moves freely, it's good for the tightness. And then I want to trim this down right to the edge of that tape. Then I want another piece of tear and tape. And again, I do not want it to extend past that plastic. That looks good. And again, remove this backing. And then I have my photo strip. And laying that face down, adhering it to this piece here. And this tab should extend past the end. Flipping it over this way. Now the adhesive on the piece behind here is on this side. So now again, I want another piece of tear and tape. And again, not to extend past, and I'm going to put it on this side. Remove that backing. And this time I have my smile, and I'm putting it on this side. And pressing to adhere. And then last, I'm going to add my tear and tape here on my tab. Give that a burnish. And remove that backing. Oh, before I do that, let me fold on these score lines. I forgot to do that. Get them used to going where they need to go. Okay. And then I can remove this backing and fold this over and over, making a little sandwich. Pushing this down because I want to adhere this strip over here, but I don't want it to hit this piece or the plastic. So kind of pushing it down in there like that. And then I can check that this slides. Okay, next, we'll assemble our camera. I don't want this much white on here, so I'm just going to trim a little closer at the bottom and on this side. It's okay if there's some, but I don't want it to be quite that much. And same thing with this part. Use some dimensionals on here. Remove the backings. And place this on here. Using my liquid glue. Putting that on there. And then I need some small dimensionals. I'm just going to use the edge here. This giant sheet was from a paper pumpkin kit. Make sure I have it going the right direction. Layer this on top of here. This mechanism can be attached to loads of different types of treat holders or even a card base. And then adding my glue, adding glue here. And then popping this on here. Lining the right edge here and at the bottom. And there you have it. A sweet little treat box with a secret message and a sliding drawer. Find written instructions over on my blog at... If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share, and thanks for watching. Bye!